So police deregulation is coming, regardless of whether you agree with it or don't. But what you have to take special note of is if you are a car guy or in the car community, police deregulation might actually benefit you quite a bit. What is going on, guys? It is your boy Knockout360 here with another video for you guys. So as you can tell, I'm in the car that makes this a car vlog. You already know how it's going down when I come around. Let's go ahead and get into it, man. Car content, car shows, car reviews, car meets, and anything and everything car related happens on this channel. So if you're into that, make sure that you stick around. For everyone else, hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so that you know what's coming out and when it's coming out, right? So police deregulation is coming, regardless of whether you agree with it or don't. But what you have to take special note of is if you are a car guy or in the car community, police deregulation might actually benefit you quite a bit. Let's talk about it. So basically, I'm scouring the internet here looking for articles and stuff and basically what's going on in the community here. And I come across this website called the Times News, which, just basically a website or whatever, depicting the news. Fayetteville, North Carolina. So recently in one of my recent videos, we talked about police deregulation and how in the state of Virginia, a lot of police officers are kind of having more of a hands-off approach when it comes to non-moving safety violations. In other words, they're not really pulling people over for tint. They're not pulling people over for like a lowered car or loud exhaust or even some safety issues with the car or faulty equipment, such as maybe your left hazard light or your tail light is not bright enough, or it may be completely out or not completely out. Headlight may be out, something like that. And the purpose of them doing that is ultimately they're just trying to decrease the amount of interactions that the police have with the public, and they're only pulling people over for serious safety threatening traffic violations, right? Speeding, reckless driving, failure to signal, moving into the next lane, stuff like that. Important things basically is what you're getting pulled over for. The small stuff they're not sweating at. That was specifically, if I can get the word out, specifically in the state of Virginia. That's something that they've been practicing for probably about a year at this point, a little less, a little more, I don't know. But they've been implementing those laws in Virginia. They want to kind of have a hands-off approach as it pertains to the public. They want to get more officers kind of leaving the public alone. In other words, this is as a result to what's going on in the world that we live in. I mean, the George Floyd situation, a lot of police brutality issues, just kind of the social, injustices that's been going on. Long story short, a lot of police officers and police departments are coming to the conclusion that if we can minimize the number of interactions that police officers have with citizens on a day-to-day basis, we can cut down on situations that kind of lead awry, issues where police officers are having to arrest citizens for, simple things, as well as, in some extreme cases, when things get extreme and get violent and deadly, right? So they're trying to minimize on that. So long story short, a lot of departments are starting to have a hands-off approach when it comes to things that are not necessarily life-threatening, right? That's in the state of Virginia. It's actually coming to North Carolina too. I'm reading an article here. Fayetteville, North Carolina, Police Chief Harold Medlock. Once again, Police Chief Harold Medlock in the state of North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, has recently implemented laws here. And I'm kind of reading down my facts here, so forgive me if I'm not looking at you guys. But long story short, when he took over and came into position, power, whatever you want to call it, he noticed that there was a significantly disproportionate amount of black and brown men and women that were being pulled over for non-life-threatening safety issues, right? Let me go through this and explain it, and then I'm going to come full circle and explain how this affects the car community, the Dodge community, the Camaro, the whole nine. Long story short, he went down the list and realized that there were a lot more black and brown people that were being disproportionately affected by this. In other words, police officers were pulling over black drivers at a astronomical rate, much more than, white drivers, or just pulling over drivers in general for non-safety or what's the term that they use here? Non-moving violations such as tint, lack of inspection, faulty equipment such as lights being out, headlights being out, tail light being out, or failure to signal, small things like that. So a lot of these police officers were kind of, let's be honest here, making their quotas by pulling over drivers for small things like that, things that were not life-threatening, things that were not safety-threatening, things that would not in any way, shape, form, or fashion put anybody's life in jeopardy. But they were pulling people over for that. And the reality of that is when you pull somebody over for something as simple as a tint, essentially what happens is it goes beyond tint. It allows the police officer to investigate the car. It allows them to investigate the person, which on one hand may be a good thing because that allows him to kind of use his, detective or investigative skills to see if there's anything else going on that he might need to know about. But on the other hand, where it oftentimes goes wrong is it allows the police officer to create a problem where there is not. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you pulled up on somebody's car that's got dark tint, you start asking questions like, well, what are you hiding? I'm not hiding anything. I just got dark tint. Oh, well, your tint's so dark, I can't see in it. You must be hiding something. So what are you hiding? What are you hiding that I don't know about? And then before you know it, it becomes a situation that can lead to an unnecessary arrest or something even, more drastic or dramatic than that. So he noticed that when he took office, and he also noticed that, traffic stops and things like that were going on as well. Speeding, drunk driving, reckless driving, racing, etc. But he wanted to decrease in the amount of non-moving violations, non-moving traffic violations as much as he could. Basically, he wanted to decrease on the amount of interactions that his officers were having with the public. There was a specific situation where one cop pulled over, and I'm reading it here, he pulled over a black lady in Fayetteville, North Carolina, early in the morning, and he pulled her over because I think she had dark tint or something like that. Long story short, she was like, I'm on my way to I think she rolled through a stop sign, something small. And she was like, I'm on my way to Bible study. And the cop was like, oh, it's too early for Bible study. He literally said that to her. It's too early for Bible study. And that caused some problems because I believe the Fayetteville police, one of the police officers actually was a part of that church and was at that Bible study meeting. And when she came to Bible study after the traffic stop, she explained the situation to the cop. The cop took it back to the cop that actually pulled her over. And I think that became some kind of landmark case in Fayetteville. So needless to say, they wanted to decrease on that. They wanted to decrease on the small stuff, the BS. So long story short, he did that, implemented that, and then it turns out it worked. What it basically did was it minimized, and he wanted his cops to minimize or avoid those types of traffic stops altogether. If it's not life-threatening, do not turn on the lights, right? Gets cops out of the habit of pulling people over for non-safety threatening issues. Let's see here. They actually did a study in that particular city that out of all of the traffic stops and non-threatening traffic stops that were made in that particular city and state over the year, only 2% led to arrest, which basically explains, I mean, out of all these arrests and out of all these interactions that we're having, only 2% are leading to arrest, which means 98% of the time we're just wasting gas, we're wasting our time, we're wasting the public's time, and we're just hitting them with menial fines. Well, fines that, obviously hit somebody's pocket well. So we're just wasting our time. So let's cut back on that. They cut back on that, and then things actually worked. I mean, the non-threatening stops went down dramatically, almost to zero. And they said the speeding tickets actually went up, but that's only because they were focused specifically on speeding and life-threatening issues as it pertains to traffic stops, right? Traffic fatalities went down as well over the next year or so after they implemented those laws. So long story short, the non-threatening traffic citations and pullovers, those went down dramatically. The speeding went up, but that's only because they were focusing all of their resources on speeding as opposed to the small stuff. But the traffic fatalities in that period went down. So people were dying less. They were getting pulled over more for speeding, but that's essentially, that goes hand in hand with what their operational, their target was. But the non-life threatening traffic violations went down significantly. How all of that applies to the car community, and we've talked about this, is basically a lot of departments are starting to lax their laws as it pertains to cars, basically. Tint, loud exhaust, we've seen it. Tint, loud exhaust, not necessarily malfunctioning equipment, but just because, if your car is too lower, they could give you a ticket for faulty equipment because it's too low. It doesn't allow you to go over bumps and stuff like that, and they would give you a ticket for that. If your car was too loud, they would give you a ticket for that as well, disturbing the peace. If your tint was too dark, they would give you a ticket for that as well. I think that's considered a faulty equipment charge or something like that. If your headlights were too dim or too bright or something like that, you would get a ticket for that. If you had like underglow, you would get a ticket for that. They're laxing that stuff down. They want to minimize interactions between the police and the public for non-life threatening traffic violations, right? Which allows us as car guys to do more stuff to our cars and not worry about getting pulled over all the time, right? Now, of course, if you live in a particular state like my state, I have inspections. So obviously I got to get my car inspected. They've got to inspect it to make sure that, it's not straight piped, because that is a violation. They've got to inspect it to make sure that the tint is legal, because if it's illegal, then that's a violation for which you will not get your car. You will not pass inspection. Therefore, you won't get your sticker on your tag. Therefore, your tag is expired and you can get pulled over for that. So, one way or another, you're going to kind of have to face the music, so to speak, or kind of comply. But what they're doing is they're taking that out of the police officer's hands, which I believe is a good thing, because that just minimizes all of the attempts and the opportunities for police to escalate a situation and then for it to become something more than what it was. If it was a simple tint charge or a tint pullover or a traffic stop, and me and you get to arguing, now it's something totally different. You know what I'm saying? And not to mention, let's just be honest here. I mean, you're wasting your time pulling me over for tint, and then 9 times out of 10, you got me pulled over on the side of the road. Somebody's flying past us, right? And that right there is a speeding charge, which could actually turn into a reckless driving situation that could turn to a life-threatening issue. But instead, you've got me pulled over because my tint is 10% darker than the legal limit, which is, in my opinion, that's stupid. You know what I'm saying? Let's focus on what's important, and let's focus on what's life-threatening, and let's minimize and decrease that, and don't even worry about the small stuff. But it benefits us as a car community because things are going to become more laxed. We're going to have less police interactions. We're going to be able to do more with our cars, and ultimately, we should benefit from it going forward. Now, that's not every state, not every police department, and even in Fayetteville, it's not like they made it illegal for cops to pull you over for those things. They can still very much so pull you over for that stuff, right? You can still get pulled over for dark tint. You can still get pulled over for exhaust, but they're trying actively to minimize that type of stuff. You feel what I'm saying? So you can still get pulled over for that shit, but it's not likely, or it's not as likely now as it was 5-10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Now, once again, like I said, that is a jurisdiction by jurisdiction, city by city, state by state thing. That's not worldwide by any means. That's not statewide for a lot of states by any means. To my understanding, you may be able to drive in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and it's all good. But as soon as you get out of Fayetteville and you get in Concord, your ass can get pulled over for that shit. You know what I'm saying? To my understanding, for all my viewers that's in like California, the West Coast area, they're still pulling people over for tint. You're still getting state refs for loud exhaust. So it's actually going backwards in Cali. You know what I'm saying? Things are getting worse for you guys. But I wanted to bring this to you because this is progress. You know what I'm saying? I never thought that I would see it in my state, North Carolina, one of the most damn conservative states in the South. One of the most law and order states in the South. If you know anything about our state troopers, they take their jobs very seriously, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. But they take their jobs very seriously. You know what I'm saying? They be on it. With that being said, what was I going to say here? With that being said, it's strictly on a city by city, jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis. You know what I'm saying? And even then, once again, it's not completely outlawed or illegal. They can still pull you over for it, but it's just not likely. But at the end of the day, progress is being made. It will start small. It will start city by city, state by state, and then hopefully over time things will become lax, you know, worldwide or whatever the case may be, because of some of the social issues that have been going on, especially between the black community and police officers. Police departments, in an effort to combat that, have decided that they're just going to let the small stuff slide. That decreases the interactions between motorists and police departments, which makes perfect sense, right? Let the small stuff slide, and just we'll go from there. But that's basically what I wanted to bring to you guys. Progress is in process, right? Eventually we'll be able to do whatever the hell we want to our cars and not have to worry about it, although we will still have to get our cars inspected, which is another issue in and of itself. But as far as dealing with, Johnny Law, we won't have to do that as much, just because they should be pulling back on a lot of those laws. Police deregulation, slowly but surely, is coming, and it actually benefits the car community, whether you like it or not, guys. So let's just keep it real there. But as always, it's been your boy Knockout 360. I'll see you in the next one, man. Peace.